So let's go ahead and dive right in here. We'll read. We're going to be doing chapter 17 of Revelation, verses 1 through 5. Saying to me, "Come, and I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters." Now, the great harlot is going to be described in detail. And so we have here one of the seven angels. And he said he talked with me, and he told John to come and look and see. And he was going to show him the judgment of this great harlot. And notice it says there at the end of the verse, who sits on many waters. Now, many waters refers to, as we saw already in Revelation, many nations. So this great whore, who is the false church system, has gained much power and is coming out over the nations. And she rules over these nations with power. And it says that she's going to be judged. So we're going to see judgment upon this great harlot. And in verse 2, with whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So we have this great harlot, and it says that the kings of the earth committed fornication with her. Now, throughout the Bible, we see that fornication was always a reference to when, excuse me, the unfaithfulness, committing, going away from God and being intimate with something other than God. And what it is here, we see that the kings of the earth, it says the kings of the earth, they went and had fornication with this woman. They entered into a relationship with her, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So she was able to conquer over people and win their hearts over and enter into a relationship. And so we see that people have forsaken God, the kings of the earth, and they've gone to be with this woman. And it says in verse 3, "So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast." So John was carried away in the spirit into the wilderness, and he saw a woman on a beast, a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, the 7 heads and the 10 horns we saw in Revelation 13, the beast. This describes the Antichrist. The Antichrist also came up out of the sea, if you remember that. He was come out through the nations, and it says in verse 4 that the woman then, okay, so before we get any further, the woman was riding, sitting on the scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy. Okay, so they're working together. The Antichrist and this false church system, this woman, they're together here. In verse 4, the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication, with the fornication of the earth, literally. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. So the identity of the church system that we see here, this false church system, first of all, is Mystery Babylon. And you can see that ancient Babylon religion started back in Genesis. I believe it's chapter 11. Chapter 10 deals with the Table of Nations, and you get to chapter 11 and we see the Tower of Babel. Now, that rebellion, when the Tower of Babel was being built, it was man's attempt somehow to build something without God. And that's the whole point of the Babylonian system, is building something, a religious system, in a kingdom for ourselves. Let's make a name for ourselves. That was the whole cry of the people that built the Babylon, the Tower of Babel that would reach into the sky. And so That's the heart behind this Babylonian system, is we can do it without God. We don't need God. And that's why I believe the judgment is going to be so severe upon this religious, false, churchy system. It's let's do church without God. We can throw His name in there a few times here and there just to let people feel like God is involved with it somehow. But really, behind the core of it is it's a false system. It's not interested in God being a part of it. That's the Babylonian system. And that was why God had to confuse the language so that the man wasn't able to go through with what he wanted to do. Man would ultimately destroy themselves like we're good at. And it says that the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and something to consider is that the Catholic Church, you notice that those are the two colors that the cardinals wear, and I guess it's the bishops too. They wear the purple and scarlet, and they're adorned with all the gold and precious stones and pearls, all these things that are outward adornments that are really not necessary to be religious. And having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. This could be a reference to, the golden chalice that represents supposedly Christ's blood in the Eucharist. You know how they have the Eucharist, and what the Catholic Church teaches is that's literally when the Pope or the priest pray over the bread and the wine, that somehow it transubstantiates into the elements turn into Christ. They transubstantiate into the person of Christ. And of course that's an abomination, that's a filthiness. And they hold up that cup, and we see here that there's a cup, and it was full of abominations, because that is an abomination, because Christ doesn't need to die over and over and over again. He said, it is finished, it's done, it's completed, I've done the work, salvation is purchased, and so there's no need to have to go to Mass and always have atonement for sin right there. Of course, we celebrate communion, and that's part of our Christian walk as we participate in it, but that's not crucifying Christ over and over again. That's an abomination. No, communion is just simply communing with the Lord and remembering His sacrifice that He made for us. And so we're going to pick up. I'm going to stop here. We're going to talk more about what the name on the forehead of this churchy system next time. Stay tuned.